Hi everyone. I'm Avinash. I think my title is the Data Analytics Manager. My background is I'm a statistician, so I handle the biostats for growing up. You've heard from Susan today, giving you background and context about the study and the 72-month data. Caroline's given us some very specific information, and Peter's told you all how to get access to that data and what the e-research platform looks like, which is where you'll be able to work on your data. So what I'm going to do is I have a few slides, not too many, and I'm not going to talk, there are no technical details in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an overview of the data sets that are available for you to access. The focus of this is the 72-month data set. However, it's a longitudinal study, and we've collected data for 6 years, and there are many data sets. We can't plonk all the information we've collected into one big data set. So I'm going to take you through how our data sets are structured, what they look like, give you an overview of it, tell you what they mean, what each data set means, and what's in each data set, how much information is in there. And then I've just got a couple of slides at the end, which I guess are just some tips for analysis and things to watch out for when you are using the data sets and doing analysis. Is anyone here actually accessed the data sets before, the growing up data sets? No? Okay, great, all right. Okay, so we have collected a lot of information from a lot of different sources. And so this slide's a nice summary, just showing we've got information we've collected from mothers, right? We've got information we've collected about partners. We've got children's information collected in a couple of ways. We've got child proxy information, so information about the growing up child, but provided by their mother. Right? And Susan actually went through the definition of mother and partner being a little bit separate from the primary caregiver. So just keep that in mind. We've got child proxy information again, but information provided by the mother's partner. Okay, and then we've got child observation data, which is, and we have a lot of this at the 54-month time period, and also the current data collection wave, which is the 8-year one. So there's lots of information about children. And so this is, well, obviously, it's child information collected by the interviewer. So just keep this in mind. As well, we have some additional information in the data sets. We have some linkage data included. This data is from the antenatal 2-year time periods. So the latter data we're still working on integrating. We've got some data on scales and tools that we've used. So we've got the strengths and difficulties questionnaire, the SDQ, for example, and the effective knowledge test. We've also included this information in there. And we have some child observations, such as height, weight, waist circumference from the 2-year period. So this is all included in there. Okay, so this slide's been around for a little while, but I'm just showing it to you to give you an overall top-down view of what we have available in growing up in New Zealand. Right? So the way you'd interpret this is, I often go across on the box. So I've named each data collection point. So it's DCW0. We've got the antenatal period. We've got DCW1, which is the 6-week data. Yep. And then we've got the DCW2, 2 years. We've got the 31-month, the 45-month, the 54-month, and then the focus of today, which is the 72-month DCW6. And then these cylinders, just think of them as data sets that we've collected. I'll actually go through what all the abbreviations mean. But if you think back to the first slide I showed, anything with M is mother data, and anything with P is partner data. Anything with C is child data. So as you can see, there are a lot of little cylinders floating around the place. So there's heaps of data. So just be aware. This here, the point of this slide is I want you to realize that all the data sets that we have, I've actually put them in reverse order here, starting from 72 months and working my way down to the antenatal data. All these data sets are linked by one common ID, and that's the child ID. So growing up in New Zealand is child-focused, so it's all about the children. So if you look at 2 or more data sets, you can link them very easily with the child ID. Okay, so that's common to every data set. But then if you follow those arrows, you can see that for the 72-month data, we've got the main ID, we've got IDN M72M, so that's the mother's ID there. Okay? So every data set has their unique IDs. Everything is able to be linked by child, but I guess this is probably the crux of the whole talk is these keys are what you'll be using to merge data sets. So just make a note of what these keys mean. You'll probably have this as a handout, so please refer to it. It's a bit difficult because I suppose in some ways if you'd had a chance to actually play around with this data and then I gave this talk, then it would be like, oh yeah, okay, cool, that's what that means. But trying to tell you what to do without you having had a look at it, so it's just to sort of let you know what's there, what to watch out for, and keep those keys in mind. Okay, just going a bit further with this. So here I've got everything listed down. I've got DCW0, the antenatal data. If we look at the full data set name column, it's split into mother and partner data. The short name for the data set, what it's called. And probably the most important column in here are the last 2 columns. So the suffix and what the suffix means. So when you're playing around with your data sets and you see a variable in there, you've done your merging, you've combined a couple of data sets, and then you see, oh, I've got something in here that has a suffix M, let's say Y2M. Which time point is that from? Okay, so Y2M, we can see is DCW2, Y2M is 2-year child. So you know, okay, this variable is the 2-year child variable. Right, gotcha, okay, that's not what I need. Okay, oh, maybe that is what I need. So this is also a very handy table, a reference table to keep with you while you're doing your analysis, or to give to whoever is doing the analysis for you. Okay, so I thought I'd just give you a feel for how much information we actually have, short of sort of opening up a data set and showing you the information, which we can't for anonymity. So I thought I'd give you a summary of the variables we have. So starting from the focus of today, a 72-month data set, it's called DCW6M in the, on the eResearch platform, in the folder on the eResearch platform. And you can see that we have 5,707 cases in there, so rows, and we have 414 variables, so columns at least in there. Okay. So on its own, it's like, so what? It's great, I'm just going to focus on that. But it is a longitudinal study, and no doubt you'll want to match the information from these mothers to some other time point previously in the study, information from these mothers to their children's data from a previous time point in the study, information from these mothers to their partner's data sometime in the study. And so if we backtrack, we've got our 54-month data sets. We've got a mother data set and we have a child data set. And you can see how many cases there are in there, in each, and you can see how many variables there are. And then if we keep going, let's put in the 45-month mother and child data set, and you can see exactly how many cases you have. And then the rest. So you can very quickly lose track of what you're doing if you don't have a defined question that you're trying to answer, if you don't pay attention to which data sets you're merging, if you don't pay attention to which keys you're using when you're merging. So this was just to give you an idea of how much information we have in there. I don't actually, so Caroline's actually covered that. So I think of these three documents as my best friend when I'm working with the datasets. I've been working with these datasets for a couple of years now, and every single time I still need to refer to at least one of these documents. So please have a look at the external data release document. That has some really good information on the anonymization details. It also has some really good information on how to merge datasets, things to watch out for. The questionnaire is also a very useful tool. I find when I look at datasets, I get a sense of what the question is asking by the label on there. But often it never gives me context on how that question was asked. So it's very important that you look at the questionnaire, especially for questions that are sequential. So you answer this question and you miss out the rest and you go to question 10, for example. Or you don't answer this question, or vice versa. Answer this question and then answer all the progressive questions. So looking at it on paper actually gives you a good feel for the context and how someone might have answered it. And then the data dictionary. So again, a very useful document. I always look, so the data dictionary I use, these are the fields in it. For me, the most useful field is the research domain and the subdomain. These correspond to the questions in the questionnaire. So you can follow it. So if you see that as number 2, questionnaire number 2, it'll be a direct match. Also, the last bit, the notes. So the notes have some very useful information in it. It tells you whether the variable, we've left it as it is. It tells you whether we've categorized it. It tells you whether we've reclassified it, or it tells you whether we've created a new variable, a derived variable for you. So that's very useful to look at the notes. So as I said, these three are usually your best friends when analyzing the data. Okay, so just 2 slides, I think. I just wanted to briefly touch on these points here. So this is longitudinal data. There is a lot of transition across time points. As Susan mentioned, twins are included in here. So if you merge 2 data sets and you see that there's a whole bunch of child IDs that have the same mother ID, or corresponding to 2 mother IDs belong to this child, well, it's because they're twins. So things like that to keep in mind. I often get asked this question, excuse me, I often get asked this question, right, I've created this data set, is it correct? Is the denominator that I have in there correct? And my response to that question always is, what is your question? So it might be correct, but depending on what your question is, that'll dictate the denominator of your data set, right? So if you're focusing on mothers only at 72 months, then you're going to get 5707, as I showed before. Great. But if you want to follow those mothers who were present at 72 months and 54 months, you're going to get a different number, right? And if you want, as I said, if you want to link mothers' data and children's data across time points, well, it'll be a different number again. So be very aware of that. The denominator or the data set that you finally get for analysis will depend on your question. And I've often seen this so Peter, when you did your summary on SPSS, I noticed there could have been some 98s and 99s in there. So often what happens is, people do summaries and they totally disregard 98 and 99 just because they haven't looked at the questionnaire or they haven't looked at the data dictionary, and they've just done a quick and dirty analysis. And if you're doing a mean of something which has 98 and 99 in it, then they go, oh, I've got such a high mean. And so you've got to backtrack and find out why, right? So just be aware of answers like that in your summaries. So again, just a reminder that this is individual data. We haven't aggregated anything at all. So you're getting everything that we've collected. We've anonymized it to protect confidentiality, but we haven't aggregated it at all. Data storage security, well, the e-research platform takes care of that. So everything's secure on there. When you're ready with your analysis, just let us know, and we'll check and release it. I just put software considerations in here. So you have 3 different types of software packages available: SPSS, Stata, and R. So depending on which one you use, you'll be doing merging. You'll be merging data, you'll be filtering data, you'll be subsetting data, you'll be selecting data, you'll be summarizing data, right? And doing analysis on it. But depending which software you use, there's different processes for it. So just be aware that some software, without saying specifically, some software are better at merging data than others. Some are better at filtering than others, and so on. Right? So just be aware of that. But the aim of this game is whatever you produce, right? Whatever analysis you produce will go in a report somewhere, right? You want that to be reproducible. Okay, so that's the number 1 rule. You've done a report, you've done your analysis, you've produced your report, you sent it to us for checking, we've released it, you've included it in your report, you've presented it somewhere. 6 months later, you should be able to reproduce that exact same analysis. Right? So just keep that in mind. As I said, the identification keys across all the data sets, they are crucial, yeah. So just keep that in mind. Especially, so if you want to do child-to-child relationships, you'll use child ID. If you do child to mother, you might start off merging by child ID and then switch to mother ID, or you might start merging by mother ID and switch to child ID, depending on your question. And the same for mother-partner relationships. So it's a little bit tricky, but please have a look at the user guide, the questionnaire, and the data dictionary, and I think you'll be in good shape. I think that's, and, oh, sorry, Susan, did you want to? And this is acknowledging a list of people who've been involved with this. First and foremost, the participants and their families, and the Growing Up team, uni services, and then the list of agencies that have helped along the way over the years and are continuing to help. I'll just, that's it for me. I'll hand over to Susan to finish up.